Welcome to PWS United, a podcast for the Prader-Willi syndrome community, brought to you by PWSA USA. This podcast gives the latest news in research, advocacy, and family support by bringing together staff, volunteers, PWS treatment specialists, biotech and pharmaceutical representatives, caregivers, family members, and individuals with PWS. Our goal is to share education, awareness, and resources with those living with PWS and their supporters. Join us in our mission to enhance the quality of life and empower those affected by Prader-Willi syndrome.
Welcome back to another episode of PWS United, the second in our Single Caregivers mini-series. So Carrie and I spoke with two single caregivers, Annie, who is mom to Adebu, who is 36, and Lon, dad to Max, who is 31. Both Adebu and Max are living with PWS. While editing this episode, I kept thinking of the word resilience. What does it mean for caregivers in our community to be resilient? Now, being a poet, I love to dig deeply into the meanings of words, to uncover the bones that are their structure, those joints and sinews that hold otherwise meaningless letters together into a shape that defines an experience. The Oxford Dictionary defines resilience in two ways. The first is the ability of people or things to recover quickly after something unpleasant, such as shock, injury, etc. I personally don't believe that unpleasant is a word that our children have earned. Challenging, obstinate, stubborn, okay, but also so often loving, kind, thoughtful, joyful, so that one didn't work for me. The second definition, the ability of a substance to return to its original shape after it has been bent, stretched, or pressed. But none of us could ever return to the shape that we were before Prader-Willi syndrome. Whether we are a parent, grandparent, sibling, friend, care professional, teacher, forming a relationship with someone with PWS changes us. The lessons we learn, whether that is the necessity of slowing down, finding ways to connect or celebrate that don't involve food, finding joy and success in quieter moments, or the knowledge that showing up for someone with pure empathy in your heart can inspire calm and peace in almost any situation. These are the valuable lessons the world needs more of. So I'm not sure that resilience is the word for this episode, and this is maybe the part where I come out with a better, more profound word with a definition that truly highlights this conversation, but for now I'm sorry to disappoint. I tried resistance, durability, endurance, all of them apply for sure, but none really capture the essence. This episode is not that simple. Please listen with care. If you are caregivers for young individuals with PWS, this episode is likely not for you. Remember, PWS, there are many stages along the way, and it is important to remember that PWS affects each family differently and that the landscape of treatments and services continues to change. Our conversation with Annie and Lon dives into some challenging and very real aspects of caring for an adult with PWS. Some of it relates directly to single parents of individuals with PWS, and some of it to the cracks and growing lesions in the support systems for adults with disabilities. It may not be an easy episode to listen to, but it is an important one. And I think a beautiful one for its rawness, the vulnerability and willingness of the parents to share their stories, the reality of the challenges that they face when it comes to employment, relationships, obtaining services, and mental health, which Annie says is, quote, the hidden casualty of my life. We are grateful to have this space for sharing these stories. For Annie and Lon and the other caregivers who have shared their experiences. It is through sharing our stories and being vulnerable that we make connections and strengthen the foundations of a community built on honesty, education, support, and now that I'm thinking about it, evolution. Dictionary.com defines evolution in part as a process of gradual, peaceful, progressive change or development, as in social or economic structure, or institutions. Perhaps this is the word that clarifies this episode. The knowledge and supports that were in place 50 years ago when PWSA began, or even 30 years ago when our friends discussed in this episode were getting diagnosed, those supports and knowledge have grown exponentially over the last few decades. Our community has grown in numbers, education, and support, but our evolution is not done. Clearly, from hearing the stories today, there is still a lot of work to do. We must continue to demand the evolution of our support structures, or even perhaps build new ones. And perhaps this is where we start. Now, let's get into this conversation. All right. Well, we are here with another Single Caregivers episode, and we have Lon and Annie. And Annie, will you start? Will you just kind of just let us know who you are, who your child is, and maybe where you are in the world, if you're okay with that?
So I'm Annie Wiley. My daughter has Prader-Willi syndrome by way of maternal disomy, and she is 36 now. And her name is Adebu Ali, just a real joy. And we reside in beautiful, beautiful Ely, Minnesota, next to the Boundary Waters.
Nice. Lon, would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Lon. I am Max's father, main support caregiver since he was 9. We live in South Carolina. We just moved here about 3 years ago. We formerly lived in Maryland. I still go up there for work, and Max works with me. He's 31.
So you said you've been Max's caregiver since he was 9. Annie, how long have you been a single caregiver of Adebu?
Oh, goodness. I'm sorry. It's
That's
been a long time.
okay. That's fine.
A long time. I got divorced, probably when Adebu was maybe around 5,
Okay.
and I've been raising her and her other 2 sisters on my own for that long, yeah.
Do you guys feel like the atmosphere has changed at all? Because you have been single caregivers for a while now. Do you feel like the atmosphere has changed at all as far as like if it's taboo to talk about it, or if there's any kind of stigma on it, or if there's more support now than there was, 20 years ago? Do you see any things have changed like that?
Yes, I've definitely seen some big changes going on. The aspect of mental health, because Adebu has maternal disomy, we struggle a lot more with the cyclical psychosis, and we are quite actively involved in an organization that's called a clubhouse. They're actually watching her right now while I'm out in my car, so having a big party. Yeah, so we have definitely seen some really big changes, especially with dealing with the county and the medical aspects. I'm finding that there are more medical providers that are aware that there's something called Prader-Willi syndrome out there. So there's some great things and there's some not so great things that I'm seeing.
How old did you say your daughter was again, Annie?
36.
Okay. So I would say that the biggest change with us is the school, that Max isn't in school anymore. That was a big trigger for him. We also don't have siblings in the house. It's just me and him, and it's pretty much been like that since he was 9. So it's just a different dynamics than in some other households. Just being me and him, but things are just, I guess, a little bit more laid back now. As far as services, we really didn't have services when he was a kid, and I mean a minor, below 18, except through the school system. He was in a really great school once I finally got him to a place where he could thrive, but it took a long time to get that process. And then it took a long time to transition him from behaviors to learning. And then transitions weren't good after high school. And there really hasn't been any services since then. They did have a thing called self-directed in Maryland, but even though we qualified, we didn't. It was just very hard to get it. We got it for about a year, and then it just kind of everything went computerized, and our support broker just kind of left us hanging, and nobody was really willing to finish the contract out on time. And so, like, even now, our contract's supposed to start in August, and I still haven't even received a review to review it. I haven't even seen a copy of it. We haven't received it in 4 years, so I've kind of given up. Like I said, we've kind of transitioned to South Carolina, even though we haven't transitioned everything.
And you said it was called self-directed?
Yeah, which was I guess when they had it in Maryland, but it was really difficult to get. And then I guess when COVID came out, and I guess a lot of the parents weren't working, that's kind of what they went to, was really what happened.
So
Um,
what kind of a program is that?
they would allow the parent to basically take care of the person, your son in
I
this
got you.
case, as opposed to trying to hire people in, because the people that came in just weren't trained. They just couldn't. No one stayed more than a week or two, and they didn't fund enough to pay them anyway. I mean, for what they had to go through. I mean, it's hard enough being a parent, but my son had severe behaviors, and was violent, and he ran away. So, like, he had all the characteristics that were just very unsafe. And he deals with psychosis as well. I think it's a little bit more managed. It's not cyclical like she said hers is.
I can really relate to you're talking about working with getting additional support to help you. We are at the end of our year for what's called consumer directed community supports in Minnesota, and this is the third year now I'm being told by them that I will have my pay cut. I'm down to 13 hours a week.
Hmm,
And then I get a couple hours,
hmm.
I get a couple days, excuse me, of nights off, with additional staff that come in. But the county is very challenging to work with. We will not get paid for our first month of the new year because the county is so behind on their work, and it just is
And
it's
then
it's
you pay
very,
staff
very
out of
hard.
pocket, right?
I end up paying out of pocket to keep my staff
And
because
then
it's
right.
yeah.
Yeah, the system's really messed up. That's how it was when we had, like, the ARC support was like that. We got 6 to 10 hours a week or a month or something, and you had to call in and schedule them. And when the hours were gone, the hours were gone. If you didn't get them scheduled, or you needed emergency hours, they just weren't there.
Right.
You just couldn't get them.
And my daughter has been, aggressive as well. We just lost a staff this year due to the fact that she was violent with her for three separate shifts, and the staff said she couldn't take it anymore. So it is a tough one finding staffing, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, a parent's gonna put up with that because it's a parent, or maybe a sibling, but a caregiver's not gonna put up with that. Not maybe once or twice, but
Mm.
like you said, by the third time, it's enough already for anybody. I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can't blame them. Like, it's not. You can't blame them. I mean, it's like, I don't like. I understand it. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I just tend to. I closed my company down. That's all I do now, is I just take care of him.
Mhm.
We just chose a different way to live.
So when they were, like, school age, do you feel like there was more support? Just by the
Well, I mean,
Definitely.
they were in school all day,
Yeah.
nothing else. I mean, from 7 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, they were pretty much taken care of. I mean, within the school system, I'm not saying I didn't get a phone call every day, but, and there were plenty of days I had to run to the school, and the bus wouldn't bring him home or whatever. But, he was still there all day long. I mean, for the most part, at least once he got, like I said, into the school where they could handle him, so to speak. But the bus was private, so that was a different story, and he was an hour away. The school was an hour from my house.
Mhm.
So that was challenging. But, the demands in school are just harder for them, transition wise, and the demands they put them on in school, and all the other influences from the other students. And, it's just a different dynamics. But he doesn't do well in any situation where it's not one on one. That's really the only situation that works. and then they got to get him. Like they got to work together. And I've had good people. I did have, two people that really hung in there for a couple of years with me when he was young, but that was just luck. It was just luck.
Thank you guys for being so open about these topics, especially I think that transition into adulthood and after school and, especially being at home still, what that looks like. And I'm sure as a single caregiver, that just hits even harder. There's so many other things to consider, and other challenges that come being a single caregiver in that position. So what are some of those additional ones? Obviously the services in the county and or lack thereof and lack of receiving them, but what are other things that sometimes come up or that you've experienced in a challenge perspective?
Well, for some reason, this year she's been transferred over to Medicare at 36. I'm not understanding quite why, but that's been a real struggle trying to get her necessary drugs authorized. I'm blessed to have some good people in the pharmacies that are trying their best for us, and we just got her started on the ViCat. So the medical aspects can be really challenging, like getting her on growth hormone, and then at 18, the insurance company saying, "No, she doesn't need it anymore." And it's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." It took us about 6 years of more years of fighting before we could get her back on it again and to keep her on it. I also had the experience that I did do placement in group homes once down in the Twin Cities, and then up here when we moved up to this small little community, the county we moved into refused to run the parent support program that we're on now, and Adebu went into a group home, and the group home settings up here are atrocious.
Mm.
Just when I'm getting close to burnout times,
Mhm.
people will say, "Well, maybe you need to think about putting her back in the group home." And it's like, "Oh, Lord, how do you do that to a loved one, when you see how hard it is for them?" Yeah, those type of programs can be really challenging for someone with PW and the families. Yeah, so we just keep plugging along.
I'm gonna say the employment factor is when they're young is the most challenging thing. Again, I just had Max, but between just all the different doctors that he went to, I mean, it was really an appointment a week. Maybe I'd get away with a week where we didn't have something scheduled, but between his teeth and the endocrinologist and the geneticist and the PCP and anything else that went wrong, it just seemed like there was anything that happened, there was three referrals that came with it,
Mm.
and it just seemed like you were at some doctor all the time. And then, the combination, like I said, I got a call from the school every day, like to the point where I said, "Look, if there's nothing I can do, like, you don't need to call me. Like, I don't need
Mhm.
to notify each day that, Max threw his lunch across the lunchroom." Like, literally, I would get a call every day. And so the time just away from work, I ran my own business, so I could cut out early and I could take a day off or, work extra on a Saturday. Like, I could always accommodate it because I had my own business, but, I just find with a lot of parents, not me specifically, but, the time away from work is just, it causes issues. I know a lady that's on the drug now. She said it's costing her employer $60,000 a month, and it's not working. And so it's like, how long is an employer gonna? How much value do you add? At some point, you don't add value to the company if it's costing the company $500,000. I don't know what the guy does or that much about him. I just kind of got a tweet about it. So I just think it's difficult in the working field. Everything she said about the medical is very accurate. We've been extremely lucky. We're still on Medicaid, so I don't know what happened there with them, but Heat Max is 31, so I don't know if there's at some point that it switches over. I know something did happen when his mom, she just started getting Social Security, so Now his SSI check comes not out of her account, but through her account as opposed to through SSI, but it's still the same. Nothing's affected that so far. We don't get any of the SNAP benefits or any of that stuff, so none of that's really affected us. And I mean, we could. It's just another thing. You got to keep up with it, and
Yeah.
the paperwork and the hassle, to get $60 a week.
Right.
By the time you figure out your time and your hours and the meetings and the denials and this and that, when this stuff's been going on his whole life. It's not like it's new, but the way the system is set up, that it just makes it difficult. It's like they're twisting your arm behind your back, like it's not a gift. So I just like, fine, if it's a gift, then keep it. I don't need it, and we don't. Like we don't. We're not. We live below our means. We're not desolate. So I don't worry about it. It's not enough money to make a difference. The care was the self-care. That's the reason I closed my business, and 3 years later, I wasn't getting it. I had to move. So, I mean, it had a big effect, whether I can go back and do anything about it. It's just not, I don't have the energy. Like you said, we're just trucking along. I've never been in a group home. I've never considered it. In fact, when he was 9, that's where he was headed. The school system in South Carolina was done. They didn't have a school for him. His mom was it was overpowering his mom. His mom's 120 pounds, and he was like 250 when he was 9, 10 years old. He was headed to a group home, a residential in North Carolina, and I just said, well, let me see if I can do any better up here in Maryland. And I just thought the schools and the hospitals were better up there, but it didn't. At the time, it didn't matter. Nobody was very educated about PWS at the time. But that has gotten better. I have seen a big change in the medical for sure, and the internet. And USA has provided a lot of support, medically, paperwork wise. So I mean, you can get gastro stuff pretty much drop of the hat. Whatever you need to get to the ER, you can pretty much get. So that's been a big change, I think, medically. But I don't like you said, we're just chugging along.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to when they were younger. And, if this is too personal of a question, certainly you don't have to answer it. But well, my question is kind of what part did the challenges of PWS play in your relationships, whether that's how it affected a divorce? Because I remember reading when Freya was young, that was one of the things that I read, that actually PWS has like the highest divorce rate or something like that. That it's just, but just another disheartening thing you read when you are first learning about the diagnosis. I think it's important for us to recognize that PWS brings challenges to relationships, whether that's to marriages that are already existing or trying to form new relationships. So I would just like to know a little bit, whatever you're willing to share about that, how it affected the relationships that you had or the relationships that you were trying to create.
Oh, big time for me. Yep, yep. There was a lot of stress when Adebu was born with so many medical issues. She was so medically fragile and just in and out of intensive care. It just it really took a toll on the relationship. And Adebu's father is West African, and it's very hard for West Africans, at least it was for him, to accept a child with a disability. And so right from the get-go, I was in charge of for everything. I remember the days where, it wasn't even feasible to leave her alone to just take a quick shower or anything. It was pretty hard back then, with him. Fast forward, had other relationships, but they're affected. They're definitely affected. My time is very limited to be alone with anybody else. Just having alone time, it just makes it really, really hard.
I'm going to say that it was a huge factor. We weren't diagnosed at birth, even though we knew something was wrong. Everybody knew something was wrong, but he wasn't diagnosed. And at the time, the fish test didn't show the UPD type, which is what he has. So I think it caused us to deal with it different ways. I'm not going to call her out, but we just both dealt with it different ways. But I think there was a lot of guilt because we didn't have an answer and we didn't know what caused it. And later on, I think after the divorce, I'd just say it was hard just because, food's an issue. You go out to eat and there's a meltdown at the table, there's food issues at home, your kitchen's locked up. There's just a lot of strange things that come with PWS that are just as hard as it is for us to understand it as parents and as doctors, and not me as a doctor, but for doctors to understand it, and professionals and people in the school system to expect a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and whoever case it might be, they don't understand. Like, even the last girl I dated, who was very, very understanding, never really got to see who Max even was. Like, a lot of the times I'm not saying I kept it hidden, but like, she never saw him have a meltdown. Like, she as much as she thought that she understood it, like, she never lived with it. And I just think it's really difficult. If you hide it and they see it later, then it's like you hid it from them. And if you put it on the table up front, like I tell girls right up front now, like, I have a disabled son that I live with and I take care of him. I'm his caretaker. And 9 times out of 10, I don't hear from them again. And I'm talking nurses, I'm talking people that work in, living care facilities, and, they take care of people like this all the time. And you would think they'd be the most caring, understanding people, and they're not. They're the furthest thing from, like, they don't, like, it's hard enough just doing that as a job, much less to live with it, or to have a boyfriend that deals with that all the time. And I mean, that's what I run into. I mean, it's just, I think it's very difficult. It takes a very special person to do it. And actually, I see more guys do it than I do see women. In my experience, most of the guys stay single if they have their kid.
So, kind of on that note, then, do either of you have any kind of advice for maybe couples who are still together but are really struggling? Like, are there things that when you look back on, that maybe could have been done differently, or ways that you could kind of, nurture that relationship?
I mean, I'll just start it. For us, it worked out better. I mean, it was easier for me to have my son and for my ex-wife to have my daughter and have them grow up separately than it was for us to have stayed together. And I was up in Maryland and she was here, so we were separated anyway for the most part in our situation just because of work. And I couldn't make the money down here that I could with my business up in Maryland at the time. I couldn't have left it. So that was a part of the reason for our separation. But if you're not happy, you're not happy. It doesn't. There's no advice. Like, you shouldn't stay together just because it's easier. Because it's not. It's not any easier to stay together and be miserable than it is, to be apart and try to take care of a kid. I just think that both people have to be in on it. And I don't know what she said about her husband being South African. I think there's a denial factor. I don't think that's a racial thing. I think there's a huge, because I hear that all the time. The mom's trying to get the dad on board all the time, or the opposite. The dad's trying to get the mom on board. The diet changes, on the weekends. And I lived that life because my wife had him for the first 9 years. Well, we got divorced when he was 5. So from 5 to 9, I was the weekend dad, so I came in and yeah, we went and got ice cream and we didn't get to do those things. So like, it's like you try to cram it all in the day that you have. And sometimes that means something extra, he's a kid.
Mhm.
Just want him to feel like a kid.
Mhm.
And that was hard. And then, when I got custody, it was the same with her. Like, he would get him and she would get him and she'd take him out to eat, and, they would go to breakfast and they would do all these things, and like, the roles reversed. So I kinda understood it from both sides. There's a good parent and a bad parent kinda thing
Mhm.
going on, and it's not intentional. It's just the way we are as humans, I think.
Mhm.
And I remember it. It gets me for sure.
Yeah, I'm in the agreement with you talking, Ron, about do you stay together for the sake of the child or do you part ways? I'm struggling with coming up with any advice about a couple staying together that's struggling. I want to say for the child, do what you can. Absolutely try what you can. It is so much harder, I think, doing it as a single person. When you got two sets of hands or two sets of eyes, let me put it that way, because you got to keep an eye on them. Just trying what you can. It doesn't. We don't get directions and manuals how to do this. And so I encourage couples to try, but if it's not working out, I think it's better to go your own separate way, because I don't think it's good for the child to see you sitting there arguing. But I completely can relate to the non-caring parent that takes the child or adult out to the meals and everything. We're so associated with food in our culture, in our world, I should say. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to eat. Everybody wants to eat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just hard when they want to eat every couple hours or so. Um, yeah, that's a tough one for parents.
I'm in touch with a lot of families. I have been for many years, and I think the ones that are together, I think those kids are super successful. Not 100% of the time, but I, I think there's an amazing difference in those in the way those kids come up. Just like she said, the dual support. So if you need a night out, or you just need to get away for a couple of hours or whatever, go to the gym, or just do something for yourself. Like, you can, like, you work together when you have that, and when you don't, it's like, Max is with me 24/7, like, and if I leave him, he's going to get into something. I mean, there's it's inevitable. So it's like, I go do something and I take the risk that he's going to get into something, or he goes with me wherever I go. If it's to the bank, he's in my car. If it's to the store, he's in my car. Him and the dog, and
Mhm.
we go like all the time. That's what we do. We just run errands, and I can't leave him home. Like, even if I want a minute to myself, like, then it's like, okay, well, chalk up the pizza, or whatever else. Like, I know it's just a given. Where I lock everything up and take everything with me. And we're not set up where we used to have a locking kitchen that had doors, and it was real easy to kind of contain the food away from him. But now I'm in a condo, and the kitchen's open. And even though the kitchen's locked most of the time, it's not always. And sometimes he finds the keys, and he'll eat anything now. He's eating dry food out of the cabinet. He'll mix it up with water and whatever. Like, he doesn't even care.
Mhm.
He doesn't even, and he never gets sick either. That's the worst part. Is like, if at least maybe it made him sick, then
Mm.
he'd be a little bit of a deterrent, but it doesn't even make him sick. Like, some of the stuff that he eats, I'm just like, I can't get it through his head. Like, he'll eat frozen foods. Like, he'll let them thaw in his room and then just eat them. He won't even cook them. And I just, like I said, he's never gotten sick. But I'm like, I tell him all the time, like, one of these days you're going to get something, and it's not going to be good. And, it's not, like I said, it hasn't been a deterrent. So we're not locked down 100%. So, I mean, I'm not even sure where he is right now.
Mhm.
I just walked out the living room and he's not in the house. He might have gone for his walk. He walks every day, so that's
Oh,
fine.
that's nice. And he has, like, a route that he does, and he has a time that he
Yeah,
comes back?
we live in the front of the neighborhood, so he walks back through the back of the neighborhood and then back. It's about a 5K, a little bit further. Relationships are hard. I think if it's great, if it's good. If it's not, then it's just a weight. It's a huge weight
Mhm.
Mhm.
on everybody. It's on both sides. It doesn't matter whether you're the dating person or the parent that's not getting along or whatever. It's just it's rough. It's not. I mean, I think I would be probably remarried if I didn't take care of him all the time.
Do you often meet is there a way to meet other single caregivers? Would you be interested in meeting a single caregiver with who maybe has an adult with a disability, or does that just sound like that's a that's a lot to put in the pot together? I don't know.
I could say I've tried. I mean, I've dated women that had kids with PWS because I thought, well, how easy is that? Like, but it's not. It's not any easier. It's just, I'm not saying it doubles it because it doesn't double it, but it's, they got everything that you got going on. It's not because the two of them are together that things get easier.
Right.
They don't. It just compounds the issues because now you have the two that you have to, I'm not saying play against each other, but they almost have to be in sync. They almost have to be perfectly in sync, or then that's going to be an issue, an added issue. So I think it's tough. And I've dated people that had other, kids with ADHD, and like they would tease Max with food. It's like, how long are you going to put up with that? Like they had to have sugar all the time. And that's what their mom said. Like they need sugar, they need sugar. So he would eat candy and chips and junk all the time. And he was a skinny little kid, but it just, he would just tease Max. And it just, it's one of those things where it just didn't, the two scenarios didn't jive. I mean, I've tried it every way. I'm not going to say I haven't. I've tried to know kids, but then you have a kid, and not just a kid, but you have a kid with special needs. So if you're trying to find somebody that doesn't have a kid, they don't want a kid either. They don't want to date somebody with a kid. And I'm 59, so I'm at the age where it's like, women that I would typically date, their kids have just left the home, like they're looking for freedom, not a guy that's got his kids 65 hours a week, or whatever, all the time. Like I have Max all the time. So it's his mom might take him one day a week. And she lives close by now, but she didn't before. But like now she'll take him a day a week, maybe for a weekend if I get lucky. I don't put the effort in because it's just really difficult at this point. I'm good just being a caregiver, I guess. I'm saying.
Yeah, I just ended a 3-year relationship because of my own frustrations of trying to do this and have my daughter with me, and even just trying to start just feels like a headache. It just feels like it's so much effort, and then you've got people who don't understand what it's like for you, or like they say, well, what's the big deal? It's you just don't feed her as much. You get the attitudes,
Right.
like, well, why did you give her that or whatever. It feels like you're always being I don't want to use the word judged, but it feels that way. And how I'm amazed on how many people feel freedom to tell me how I need to raise my daughter. That's a great one. It's like, well, I'd like you to live in my moccasins for a couple days and then tell me what you think about my choices. So the relationship, bringing someone brand new in who doesn't understand PW at all is really hard.
Yeah, I have to. I laugh because, like, for somebody to come into a relationship with you, even after a year, and try to educate you on PWS or what you're doing wrong or how you should do something different is laughable. And like, as soon as that starts, I'm like, I'm out. Like, I just like, as
Yeah.
soon as that starts, because they don't get it. Like, you can't possibly understand what you're saying right now. Like, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
Like I've done everything. Like there's no like magic pill that you're going to come up with or some idea that hasn't gone through my mind. Like there's nothing. There's nothing that anyone could ever tell me. Like even at the conferences, like I don't go to learn anything anymore because I rarely pick up a bit of information that I didn't already know. But I go for the camaraderie, to see the parents and to see the kids and But as far as education, I mean, 31 years later, are you kidding me? I'm an expert. Nobody's going to tell me how to do it or how to do something different
And you figured out what works best in your home for the two of you at this point as
right.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you try to tell him, like, don't have food out when I come over. If you want me to come over to your house and bring my son, then don't have a cake sitting out on the counter,
Right.
don't have just baked cookies. And, don't be in the middle of making dinner unless we're coming over to eat dinner, like those,
Mhm.
I just, like if you don't understand those things, then it just doesn't work. I'm not coming over,
Mhm.
because it's just the stress. I already know the stress that comes with that.
Yeah.
And to try to like educate somebody else on that is just as difficult. It's like you're
Mhm.
constantly telling them what to do.
Mhm.
Nobody wants
Yeah.
that either. Like this is my house. I cook dinner when I come home from work. I get it. Like I get it. Like the food thing's huge. Like it's just, and I was gonna say earlier the job thing. There's no jobs.
Nope.
There's no daggone jobs. And then, even if they do get a job, they just take the money back from them anyway. So it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I gave my son a job in my pool store. He made literally $150 a week. And then Social Security took it out of his check.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
It's like, so what's the point? Like at some point he has to work more than the hours that a normal person would work in order to get enough to make enough money after taxes to not get the money that he gets in his $900 check.
Right.
So it's like it's pointless for him to even get a job. And I try to tell my daughter that all the time. Like, there's no job that'll pay him enough money from the money that he already gets. Like, they're literally going to just take money from his employer and then take it out of his check. It's whatever disability income. It's additional. Up to this certain amount. So if you make any money, it comes out of that. So there's no incentive for them to get a job, even if there was a job. But there's no incentive to go worry about, the candy aisle at Home Depot or the lunchroom at, the Red Cross or wherever. Like whatever job you think of, I'll tell you where there's food.
Mhm.
And he already knows.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to tell him where it is. Like, desk drawers, people's purses, whatever. He knows where there's a microwave, where there's a fridge, where there's a lunchroom, where there's a Coke machine, where there's a candy machine. He's going to know it all within a day. And then it's just when do they catch him? How long does it take before they catch him? Or I got to stand there with him and be his whatever they call it, like his caregiver at his job. Like I have to stand over guard with him at his job.
Mhm.
So now his job becomes my job. So where's the incentive? There's no incentive. There's no incentive for me. There's no incentive for him to work, even if there was a job. And I mean, there are jobs he could do. Like he could go work for a landscaper. There's a lot of jobs he could do. He could go work for a pool company he's got enough training and he could go do it. But the food's an issue wherever you go. There's rarely a store you go to where there isn't food, even just a regular, pet supply store where he would love to work, but there's food there.
And then you've got the behaviors too that you have to deal with on a regular basis, and that makes it hard for employment as well. She just doesn't do things independently well. She wants someone by her, reassuring her that she can do this job, and of course supervising the food, and it becomes so much work as to to get her a job that we're exactly there where it's like, well, they just take the money away, so why are we going through all of this? And then not only do we have our normal daily stuff, but we also I have my mother is 94 and we care for her. So I'm a one of those
Bless your heart.
sandwich people. So I'm by day I'm doing a debut, and by evening I'm doing mom and a debut, and it just gets to be crazy to think about throwing a job in there as well.
Mm. Thank you both for, again, being so open about this. I think you're touching on a lot of unmet needs in the community that we want to see fixed so badly. And that's a big purpose of doing these couple episodes that we're doing, to really try to figure out where there's a lot of support needed. And it's a lot of places, I know, but trying to
It's a
pinpoint some
bummer
of
because
these.
Max he could be so
Yeah.
productive. Like he's
Yeah.
it's almost like I'm holding him back. Like, but like it's a loss. It's really a loss for him to go to work. It's a loss in time. it's a loss in gas. It's just a loss. There's no monetary gain. And I'm not saying that there always has to be, but I mean, somebody's got to pay the bills. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that the bills got to be paid at the end of the month. And
Yeah.
like I said, I don't work anymore because what am I going to do? He can't sit home. Even when I worked, I was an EMT and I would work. We worked in the pool business during the day, and I worked EMT at night. And I would leave him home. Like, I would leave at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5:30, feed him dinner. He would go to bed. He would get up in the morning, and I would be home 6 in the morning, and I'd get him up and get him breakfast and get him to school. And there were nights when he ordered pizza. Like, you can't be there. Like, you can't be in two places at once. So even when you think that he's home sleeping and doing the right thing, like, what, he's just sleeping. Like, he sleeps great. Like, I know he sleeps great. He's going to sleep 10, 12 hours. He'll be bored after an hour of TV. But, on the one night that he gets an inkling, and now, like, you can DoorDash and you can do this and
Right.
that. And
So
he's got
accessible.
money. I mean, I've never restricted him from having money. And maybe that's not a great thing, but it's just how it is. So he feels a bit of independence. But if he wants to go get a $10 pizza, he's got $10 in his pocket. Like, he can do it. And so that was, it was just another issue where I'm trying to work, and here I was working two jobs, and thinking, well, the night job I got it covered, because he's sleeping anyway. And there were still nights that we had issues. And again, not every night, but we had 3 or 4 issues in the 5 years that I did it. So it's difficult. It's difficult for him, and it's difficult for us, to have employment and to not, like, you're just constantly worried, that something's not awry, he's doing something wrong. And even if he's not, like, you still get the sense that he could be,
Yeah.
and you can't shake it. All my shift, many days where I went home and checked on him and went back to work. So you never know. I mean, and there's no, like I said, there's no incentive for them to work if there was a place for them to work, and then again, they need a job coach. They need somebody there with them. And I don't know if any of those things can ever be provided. I think it's just a matter of what you want for your kid and what your kid wants out of life. These kids that go to college and take all these classes. I know one lady, her son, she worked so hard for him to graduate, and her son is smart. I mean, he's upper, he's on the upper end of the scale. He doesn't get nothing. He doesn't get no benefits. He doesn't get Social Security. He doesn't get any medical insurance. He gets nothing because he graduated and his IQ is 75 or 76 or something, as opposed to where my son's is at 68 or whatever. But just that difference in pushing her son, she's lost every benefit that she could get for him. And he's just as disabled as Max. He can't have a job. He worked at Home Depot and stole food, and then got into it with one of the customers also, which was really why he got fired. So again, it's the combination. It's the food and it's the behaviors. You can't yell at, get in somebody's face at a store and threaten them, and then just write it off like, oh, he has a disability. In school, they can do that, but in the outside world, they just don't. It's not acceptable, and it's never going to be, and it never can be. You can't have an employee acting like that, whether they're disabled or not. Like, it's, even if you're not disabled, you can't act like that. Like, you will lose your job. If you get in somebody's face and threaten them, and you're an employee, whatever, like, you're gonna get fired too. So it's not like, I understand it. I'm not saying I don't understand it. I don't blame any of it. I just say that it's kind of the way it is. It's just, I think there needs to be an understanding that that's how it is. Which I don't think that there is. I think that, like, there's people that think we milk the system. You know, that's the furthest thing from the truth. It really is. I'm living well below my means because of the system. Like, I could be working. I could have my son in a group home and it be paid for. Like, all I have to do is say I'm done. Like, I can't do it anymore, and turn him over to the state. And he'll go into care, whatever. Even if if it starts psychiatric, because it will. And I just say, I can't do it. What are they going to do? They got to put him somewhere. Then he just becomes a ward of the state, and I'm not off the hook, but I'm just saying, like, I would never do that in a million years. But Like they're not setting the system up for them to do anything different, and that's the part they don't get. That's the part that I don't see why they don't get that. Like
Mhm.
there should be some incentive for him to go to work and not be penalized. That's not fair.
Annie, I
And
think you
I don't know
chuckled
what
when
to
he
do.
said, there's people that think he's milking the system. Do you feel that as well? That people think that about you?
Oh, I still feel that way, especially when the county we just had our assessment last Friday, and it is so invasive. Every year, we've gotta sit down and talk about all of Adebu's challenges in front of her. I hate it. Feel as if everybody is making income except for Adebu and myself. Everybody's making income off of her. It's just appalling. The group home was probably, I'm not good with math, but I wanna say triple the amount of funding that they offer us. Um,
Right.
the system is just not designed for a single parent to be to be supported. I really, really have a lot of mental health issues because of it. We haven't even touched our own mental health aspects, and I'm feeling that that's a hidden casualty of my life with my daughter is the amount of struggle that my mental health has to go through just to keep up with the system. Whew. Yeah, it's not easy topics here.
No.
No.
I know there's so much to cover, and I like that just kind of opens I feel like another Pandora's box, of
Mhm.
mental health. And we're at the end of the hour, but that's definitely something I want to talk more about. Maybe that's just different episode altogether, specifically the mental health. And, we had written up the questions beforehand, and kind of the way we wanted to end it was if you have advice or parenting hacks, being a single caregiver. But honestly, that feels like it would, I don't know, maybe kind of cheapen the conversation that we've just had. And I think that it just really needs to maybe sit with that. Like
Yeah, I agree,
there's
Annie.
there's a lot of challenges, and there's a lot, how did you say it? The system, yeah, is not designed to support single caregivers. And so I think the next question is, what can we do about it?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
really
think
great.
it's just single. I think it's just the disability structure is not set up right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whether there's two
And
parents
and
or
not so
five
easy
or
to, it's not so, it's not like you flip a switch and change it. It's a huge system, and it's just the way it is because of the way it is. Not, I don't know that it could ever change. It just the big changes would have to be made. When you make big changes, other things change, and it's all compiled together. But I appreciate you doing this anyway. The more we get out there, the better always.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a huge, I think, episode, conversation, stories that really do raise that critical awareness. So again, thank you both for being so vulnerable and opening up on, again, heavy conversations, heavy topics.
Yeah.
So we just appreciate you both for
Yep.
doing this, and you're doing amazing. Just remember that.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks.
Appreciate
And
it.
and I really wanna be able to stress that I truly believe that my daughter is a gift from heaven to me. She is as difficult as it is, she is just an angel. No matter when she's having behaviors or if I've caught her sneaking food again or, whatever, I really believe that they are angels sent from heaven to us. We have so much that we can learn from them.
Yeah, I second that.
Thank you for listening to this episode of PWS United. If you want to learn more about Prader-Willi syndrome and how PWSA USA is making strides in advocacy, family support, and research, visit www.pwsausa.org. And while you're there, we encourage you to sign up for our Pulse email newsletter to stay informed about the latest news, resources, and events. Don't forget to subscribe to the PWS United podcast so you never miss an episode. Our team is always available to support families and their loved ones living with PWS 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You can call us at 941-312-0400 or email info@pwsausa.org. Catch a new episode next Tuesday, and until then, have a great week.